A certain man, Lazarus, was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair. Lazarus was her brother, and he was sick. So the sisters sent word to Jesus saying, "Lord, the one whom you love, he's sick." And when Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness isn't fatal. It's for the glory of God, that God's Son might be glorified through it." See, Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. And when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was. And after 2 days, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." His disciples said, "Rabbi, the Judean opposition wants to stone you, and you want to go back?" And Jesus said, "Aren't there 12 hours in the day? Whoever walks in the day doesn't stumble because they know the light of the world. Whoever walks in darkness does stumble because the light isn't in him." He continued, "Our brother Lazarus is sleeping. I'm going to wake him up." His disciples said, "Lord, if he's sleeping, you'll get better?" His disciples thought that Jesus meant that Lazarus was in a deep sleep, but he had spoken about Lazarus' death. So he spoke plainly. Lazarus has died. But for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, so that you might trust courageously. Come on, let's go see him. And then Thomas, the one called Didymus, said, "Let us go too, that we might die with Jesus." When he arrived, he learned that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany was just under 2 miles from Jerusalem, so many other Judeans had come to comfort Mary and Martha after their brother's death. And when Martha heard that Jesus had come, she went out to meet him, but Mary remained in the house. And Martha said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, our brother wouldn't have died." Even now, I know that whatever you ask God, God will give you. And Jesus said, "Martha, your brother will rise again." And she said, "I know he'll rise on the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever trusts in me and lives will never die. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die." Do you trust this? And Martha said, "I trust that you are the Christ, the Messiah, the one entering the world." And when she had said this, she went back and spoke privately to her sister Mary. "The teacher is here, and he's calling for you." Now, when Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to meet him. Now, he hadn't entered the village yet. He was still the place where Martha had met him. And many other Judeans who were comforting Mary in the house, when they saw her get up quickly and leave, they followed her. They thought she was going to mourn at the tomb. And when Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she said, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." And when Jesus saw her crying, and the other Judeans who had come with her also crying, he was deeply disturbed and troubled. He said, "Where have you laid him?" And they said, "Lord, come and see." And then Jesus began to weep. The other Judeans said, See how he loved him? But some said, He healed the eyes of the man born blind. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Then they came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone covered the entrance. And Jesus said, "Remove the stone." And Martha said to him, "Lord, the smell will be awful. He's been dead 4 days." And he said, "Didn't I tell you that if you trusted, you'd see God's glory?" And so they removed the stone. And Jesus looked up and said, "Thank you for hearing me, Father. I know you always hear me, but I say this for the benefit of the crowd standing here, that they might believe that you sent me." When he said this, he shouted in a loud voice, "Lazarus! Lazarus! Come out!" And the dead man walked out. His feet were bound, his hands were tied, his face was covered with a cloth. And Jesus said, "Unbind him. Let him go." Therefore, many of the other Judeans who had come with Mary and saw what Jesus did, they believed in him.